Let's bring in Dore Gold, president of the Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs and former director general of the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Great to have you with us, sir.
Good to be with you, Shannon.
All right, what do you make of what, if you were able to hear the interview there, because I continually pushed Dr. Erekat on this idea that this administration, the Trump administration, was leaving open the idea that all the parties there are the ones who will decide the borders, the nuances, the custodianship of the holy sites won't change, that kind of thing. And he said it didn't matter. What they heard about Jerusalem, the headline was the U.S. was recognizing it as the capital and moving the embassy, and the nuance didn't mean anything beyond that.
Well, he's a professional, and he should know better. But what I'm really disturbed by in that interview is the fact that Saeb Erekat is talking about bloodshed, violence, and that's not the way to conduct diplomacy. That is not the way to speak to the American people. That if America decides X, the Palestinians are going to explode and have some kind of reaction of rage. And I think he has to answer specifically the concerns, the increasing concerns of the international community on Jerusalem, on refugees, where there are very specific matters that have been raised.
Well, and Erekat, to me, kept saying that he thought that this was some political pressure here domestically on the president, and that the president wasn't thinking about the parties there in the region as much as he was answering to his base. We have this now Pew poll that talks about who is more supportive of the Israelis versus the Palestinians. The Republicans overwhelmingly, 79% of them, sympathize more with Israel. The Democrats are divided here. They say 27% Israel, 25% Palestinians. About half of them say both or neither, or they don't know. Do you think President Trump made a domestic political decision in making this? And is that the right way to attack something that is really critical to the stability of your region?
Well, there are professional assessments that have been made in the president's decision. This is not all politics by any means. Take, for example, the issue of UNRWA, the refugee organization. There's a lot of people who have observed that UNRWA is not working. You know, take, for example, how many refugees were there at the end of World War II in Europe? Tens of millions. How many refugees are there today? Zero. Palestinian refugees, just a few years later, in 1948-49, how many were there? 500,000, 600,000? Today, how many are there? 5 million, according to UNRWA. Well, that has to do with the fact that UNRWA has different accounting rules than all the other refugee organizations in the world. The United States has a right to raise questions like that. And again, you don't have to hear threats of violence because those hard questions are being asked.
What do you make of his response when we talked about this issue of the aid, $60 million of aid, U.S. aid, being cut from UNRWA, and they're by far the biggest donor to that fund and that effort? You know, Erekat said to me that he worries because so many of the people are completely dependent on it. You talk about the huge number of people that are, and he worried, especially among the young people, if they lose those benefits and those lifelines, that they will be more ripe for recruitment by the terrorists. Is that a legitimate argument to you about that aid issue?
Well, you know, they have been on notice for a while. In previous Israeli operations in the Gaza Strip, which came about because there were rocket attacks on us, what do we find in various UNRWA facilities? Hamas weapons. That's unacceptable. There are standards for how organizations like UNRWA should be run. Meet the standards and get the money.
All right, former Ambassador Dore Gold, we appreciate you being up so early there for us in Jerusalem and spending your time with us. We appreciate it.
You have good coffee in the studio.
Yes, you do.